Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is extra special because it is featuring the Stamptember collaboration set between Simon Says Stamp and TRinity Stamps. So we're going to be using that as well as some other products from TRinity Stamps to make not one, but two shaped cards. One of them will feature a base that it is from a die, which is the pumpkin that you see right there. And then the other one, we are going to make our own base for. So shape cards are super fun. I think even adults like to receive them, though I do think that they're probably more, like we tend to make them more commonly for kids, but I think they're cute for anybody. So here I'm getting all of my stamping done and out of the way. The Stamptember set, if you are like, that's super cute and I would like to get it, make sure that you hop over there and get it right away. The Stamptember sets are exclusive to Simon Says Stamp. You can only buy them there, and it is a first come, first serve basis. So once they're gone, they're gone. There is a stamp and die bundle, or you can just get the stamp. There is not, like, you can't just buy just the dies. They either come together or just the stamp. But anyway, those release every day at noon. I think I maybe will have one or two more this month. You have the ones for the companies that I work with. So anywho, I'm stamping these all out and using ink that is safe for alcohol markers. I think this time around I used the Hero Arts Intense Black, but I also like Honeybee's Intense Black. You just want to make sure you're using something that's safe for alcohol markers, because that's what I'm going to be coloring with. In addition to that, I also am going to need to color my pumpkin, so I am die cutting out all of those pieces. And I know it probably seems weird, like, Kelly, why did you die cut the mouth, or why did you die cut the eyes when you're just going to have to die cut them out of the face of the pumpkin? I am doing that because I need those for my backer pieces. So now here I'm going to go in and I'm going to put the little face of my jack-o'-lantern onto my pumpkin. I'm going to tape those in place and then run that through my die cutting machine as well. If you are a fan of shaped cards, TRinity has lots and lots of them. Obviously they have this pumpkin one, they have a mug, they have a soup can, they have arches. There's a bunch that I'm probably missing. And then they also play really well with interactive cards. So like this cupcake that I'm using actually has a second piece to like die cut out the center and leave a frame around it so that you could turn it into a shaker card. I think the pumpkin card would be really cute as like a light up card. So there's lots of different ways that you can use these. So for the shading here, I did have to speed it up just a little bit because you guys know I like to leave everything in, but it does take a long time to color. So, and I am always a proponent of like leaving my mistakes in. When I did the shading for the kind of like melty ice cream gnome that you just saw me do, I did the shading like down and to the left like I would normally do it. And then I'm not sure exactly what happened with the other gnome that has like the little ice cream cone hat. But I did the shading on the opposite side, and that actually is not correct for when the card goes together. Did I use them anyway? Absolutely, because I don't care. If I am giving somebody this card that I have spent this much time making and coloring and thinking of them, and they're like, hey, your shading's off, then I promise you that will be the last card that they get. So anywho, I do, this time around, I did color with my Copic markers, but you can obviously use any, type of mark if you have Olo markers or, whatever brand that you have, or if you want to use colored pencils. The laying down of the shadows never changes. So you can use whatever medium works for you. I decided to go with kind of like this hot pink, like kind of raspberry color, because I thought it would play really nicely with the orange. And by spoiler alert, I was right. It does. But I knew that I was going to have the cards together. If you guys watch my channel, you know I'm super matchy-matchy. So the cards were going to be together, so I wanted everything to look nice when I put them together. That's how I chose my ice cream flavor, if you will. And then for these little straws, these little decorative straws, and you'll see me do it with the candy as well. Sometimes it is just easier if you know that you want to do something white to just like go ahead and lay down the shadows. For me, I did the shadows to with a cool gray, a C1, a C3, and a C5. Because now I can go in there and I can just add the orange to the stripes, and it's not going to look crazy, and I'm not going to have to worry about like individually shading, 5 different sections, because I've shaded all the white sections at one time. So for the cones, you can see I am doing, kind of the darker color, blending that out with my dark midtone, then my light midtone, then my lightest color. I am also going back in with my E57, which is my dark midtone, and kind of like tracing over those lines so that I don't lose the detail from the, what is that, like a waffle cone? Is it a waffle cone? I'm not sure. Just a regular ice cream cone, whatever. The texture lines that are in there, I want to maintain them. For the, like the skin tone, this one that is like the little ice cream cone, almost like in a cup, that one, you can very clearly see their features. So I felt like it made sense to color them a skin tone. The one where it's kind of melting, I did a combination of the pink and the skin tones because like it obviously has a mouth and a nose, but it's just not as prevalent as this one is. In order to repeat my colors, because I feel like that really, kind of brings the whole design together, helps it to look more cohesive and a little bit less chaotic, especially when you have a lot going on. So I did the grays for the cup. I'm going to do my little ice cream gnome the same colors, that same raspberry color, because I have other ways that I am going to be bringing in the orange into this particular card. And this one I did happy birthday, but there's other sentiments in that set that you could use. Like it's a sprinkles kind of day. So like you could use it just like as general encouragement. I think these would be super fun if you're a person who likes to put like notes in your kids or your grandkids, like leave them little notes or notes in their lunches. I think these would be really adorable for that. Or maybe if you're rewarding them, sometimes, if Peanut's doing really well in school and, he's sticking with, getting his homework done on time and not giving us a hard time and everything else, we will, take him for a little treat. So I think that this would be a cute way to leave him a little note that we're going to go for ice cream as a reward for fill in the blank, whatever it is. So yeah, they're very, very cute. But if you like cute, that's kind of Trinity's whole aesthetic. So here I have used this large cupcake before. I did one as a shaped card and one as just a regular A2 size card. So you can check out that video if you're like, I super love this cupcake. I do super love this cupcake. But in adding the shading, what I'm doing is I've picked a slightly darker color. This is actually an E, so it's a brown. I'm shading my orange with a brown, and it is, I think it's E39, which is like, I think the name of the color is leather. I'm not entirely positive. I'll, of course, link everything below. But so this is going to help me get a little bit more contrast. The orange colors that I'm using are very bright because I like a bright color. I mean, I like a bright color scheme anyway. If you've been here for even one card, you should already know that. So I wanted to still have the bright colors, but I do still need something that's going to give me some dimension. And my darkest color being the YR09, because it has that 0 in front, it's still really bright. And so in order to make it just a little bit more dimensional, I'm bringing in that darker color. And then in order to get that cupcake, that kind of accordion style, shading that you typically see in cupcake holders, that's why you see me putting kind of like the rounded triangle at the top. And you don't want all of those lines to be exactly the same length. You want to vary the length. So I have some shadows kind of coming up from the bottom, and then those kind of rounded triangles up at the top coming down. And that is what's going to help it kind of look like it has peaks and valleys. And then my lightest color is actually a bright yellow, to really brighten it up. So I liked the way that this came out, but when I was kind of like looking at everything together, I realized that it wasn't going to look like it went. Like, it wasn't going to look like it was intentional. So instead of doing just an orange cupcake holder, I am going to do a gradient, an orange and pink gradient. So I'm doing the same thing that I was doing before. I'm just laying my pinks over those oranges. Thankfully, because they are next to each other on the color wheel, I'm not going to have any issue with kind of blending these out. You know, orange and pink will work very nicely together. If you do have, like, you've laid down a color and your other accent color is not, one that's next to it on the color wheel, or not one that you can make it together, make it work together, then I would look at adding other elements in that other color to make it more cohesive. These are the only elements on this particular card, is just those 2 gnome characters and then the cupcake. So I didn't have a lot of room to add other things, but if let's say for some reason I was doing pink and green, well, that's not going to be a nice gradient. So I would look at maybe adding some candies or a candle or something else that I could do to bring in the green and make everything match better. For the shading on the frosting, I am using those same cool grays. Again, we're repeating those colors. And I'm adding shading like for the round part on the outside. For the most part, I am leaving a little bit of a gap, so there's like some reflective light. And then I am adding shading underneath each one of those layers, slightly extending them out. Here's where I told you I was going to repeat the same thing. I'm shading a lot of these with any of the ones that I think that I might leave some white on. I'm shading them with my grays. This is the idea for this one, was with like the jack-o'-lantern, like there would be like my little, they're so cute, like my little trick-or-treater gnome. I think he's called the fabulous gnome. Oh, also let's address the fact that I colored a cupcake, but you are didn't see it. The reason you didn't see it is because when we finally make this card, you're not going to see it then either. If you want to know how I did the texture and stuff for the cupcake, I would highly recommend that other video. And if I remember, I will put a card. If not, I will try to link it at the end. But anyway, the idea was like the candy would kind of be like coming out of the little jack-o'-lantern's mouth, and my little trick-or-treater would be coming out. I used the fabulous gnome, and then the other gnome with the pumpkin, I think, is called Life is Gourd. But then in addition, they have a, TRinity has one that's the Hocus Pocus gnomes. I did a card with that last year where we talked about how to get a glow. So that one is another one that has it's got like a little flying witch and a little wizard, and like those would be great for that kind of pumpkin-y card as well. I'm repeating the same colors that we've been using in these candies. There's no right or wrong way to color them. I typically, kind of add color for the round ones to like the left and the right hand side, so that way there has, some dimension. For the candy that's wrapped, I definitely added more colors where like they're wrapped tight together. That's where my shadows are going to be. But those are pretty easy. Moving on to coloring our little Halloween gnomes. This is obviously supposed to be a ghost. So I'm going to color my little Halloween gnome white. It will look gray when you're coloring something white. We're just putting in the shadows. Same thing that we did with the cupcake frosting. But it's going to look gray here because there's no other colors with it. Once we get this little cutie patootie onto our pumpkin, that it will read as white. It will just read more dimensional. So for his little beard, I am just following the long lines that are there and kind of extending out those shadows. Because we're coloring it white, we do want to make sure that we're leaving plenty of white in the design. And then I use the same skin tones that I did previously. So I can't even believe that first of all, that Stamptember is even here. It just feels like the time is going by very, very quickly. Like we're already into school and everything's just crazy. So I did have to ask my little one. I haven't asked my oldest yet what he wants to be for Halloween. We used to dress to match, and we dressed to match. I think the transition year where we did not dress to match is the year that I had my daughter, because on Halloween I was 4 days away from giving birth. I was enormously pregnant. And, you know, they always like all these tricks that they tell you, you know, to help, you know, move things along. I walked the entire neighborhood all night long. And because obviously I couldn't fit in much else, my costume that year was a pumpkin shirt. And then the little jack-o'-lantern face was on my big old pregnant belly. And so I think that was the first year that we didn't dress alike. And then that just kind of continued. He, you know, was getting a little bit older. And when we go trick-or-treating, he doesn't even want to hang out with us anymore. He wants to go off, you know, run ahead with his friends, which I totally get. I don't hold it against him. You know, kids do get older and it happens very quick. So, but now because I had another baby, I have someone else I can match my Halloween costume. So, the first year we were unicorns. Last year we were unicorns the first year. Then we were Mickey and Minnie Mouse. That's the year that it snowed. Isn't Ohio great? It snowed. So we went together as Minnie Mouse. She was Minnie Mouse in the pink and I was Minnie Mouse in the like traditional red and black. And then, last year she wanted to be princesses. So she said she wanted to be a purple princess. So I bought her a little Sophia the First dress. And then she wanted mommy to be a blue princess because obviously even my child knows blue is my boyfriend. And so I went as Cinderella. And my husband, who's also super into Halloween, wore a t-shirt that said Prince Charming. That was sarcasm in case you couldn't tell. So this year I asked her, you know, what we were gonna be. Oh, let's go back to the card. So here I did color because I wasn't entirely sure what I was gonna do with the pumpkin and the leaves. So I did color those, but I did not leave it in because as you're going to see here shortly, when it comes to the final card, I didn't use that. I cut it off. So here they have the stem of the pumpkin, and then those other pieces that you see are actually like the inset side of the pumpkin. You know how when you carve a pumpkin, you can still see the inside wall of the pumpkin. That's what those pieces are. I love that they include them. I think that that's such a great way to like make them a little bit more realistic. And maybe, you know what, I might be using this again because I think that it would look so cute lit up. So yeah, anyway, so this year I was like, what do you want to be for Halloween? Cause like I got to get on it to try to find these costumes and get them here and make sure they fit everybody. And so she told me that this year she wanted to go as Tiana from The Princess and the Frog. And she wanted me to go as Charlotte, or in the movie they call her Lottie, because that's her best friend. Isn't that the cutest thing you ever heard? Adorable. I don't even know if Charlotte has a costume out there that I can purchase. I might be up at the Goodwill or Volunteers of America trying to piece together a costume, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it because that's what she wants to do, and she told me I was her best friend. So yeah, sold. I'm in for it. Here coloring the front of the pumpkin, I'm using those same colors, just kind of extending them out. There are sections, that are cut into the pumpkin from the die. So I'm just following along those section lines to add my shadows. And then I'm making sure, because it's a large expansive area. So you do want to make sure that your markers are, well inked, because you are going to, you're going to need to saturate a large area here. So, and then the highlight will be right across the middle. Now, if you have been here before, I do like to do a lot of dry fitting of things. And so I colored the insides to be a little bit lighter, and then I colored the pumpkin. And then so I double checked it here, and I realized there wasn't really enough contrast between the outside of my pumpkin and the inside of my pumpkin for it to read the way it needed to. So I ended up going in with my lighter mid-tone, and I just filled that in. And then I checked it again, and then it was better. It did look better. The yellow you could actually see. So these are the pieces that I cut out at the beginning. I'm going to color them black. You could absolutely cut them out of black cardstock, but I had no idea what I was doing at the start. So I like to cut them out of white. And then here's everything colored up. This is the base for the pumpkin. This is part of that die set, and it is going to cut out 2 identical sides and do the embossed fold in the center. So we'll just be able to pop that right out and fold it up, and it'll be good to go. All the other dies I'm putting in place, and I'm going to hold them there with my pixie tape while I run them through my die cutting machine. And then once we have all of the pieces parts, I'm going to move on to creating the base for this cupcake that does not have a die. So you could do this. I would recommend obviously doing it with the larger ones, but so I have a half a sheet of paper. This is hold on. This is 8.5 by 5.5. And so here I'm checking first to see if I want my card to open up like a book. And I can see that I have to have it pretty far over onto the fold before I'm going to have enough for it to open and close. So the book style opening of the cards, like the pumpkin is not going to work well for this. So now I'm going to flip it and see, well, how does it work vertically? And vertically is going to be the way to go for this one. You can see that fold hits right behind the first kind of frosting, and that's going to be perfect to hold everything together and still give us enough room to write a message inside. So I'm just going to hold these there while I take a pencil and I trace around it. If you wanted an extra white border, you could also, trace the dies. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold it over in half. I'm going to burnish that edge with my bone folder, and we're going to treat this like, you remember back in school, like elementary school, when you were making like the hearts for Valentine's Day or the snowflakes, during wintertime. We're not going to cut the fold where they're connected. We're just going to cut the shape out around it. I find when I'm fussy cutting that I have better luck if I hold my scissors straight in my dominant hand and then I use my non-dominant hand to turn the paper. That way I get a much smoother cut, and then I'll cut all the way up to that fold. It's not obviously the full cupcake, but once we put everything together, you won't see that fold, but it will still open up and down, like a card. So for our sentiments, we are stamping, we're treating with our anti-static tool, of course, and then we are stamping in a pigment ink in white, and then we're going to heat emboss this with some white detail embossing powder, and then once that is cooled off, we will cut it out with our coordinating dies. So one of them, the Happy Birthday, is from the Stamptember set, and then the Happy Halloween is from I think it's the Life is Gorge set. So I got to get on it. And actually, it's really fitting for us, like the characters that she chose, because my child my husband has curly hair if he would let it grow out. I have super curly hair. And so her hair is very, very curly. So that's going to be like perfect for a little Tiana updo, with her little the green princess wedding dress. And then Charlotte, if you've not seen the movie, is a blonde, which is, I'm not a natural blonde. I'm naturally light brown, but I do lean toward more of the blonde. That's what I pay the people to do. Back to the card. So here I have just laid everything out, and I'm going to glue down the black portion, the eyeballs, the nose, and the mouth. And then that way I can remove the actual pumpkin part and line up those inside walls, those kind of like detail edges. And then when I put it back over top of it, the walls will be there glued right on top of that black portion, and everything will look as it is supposed to look. So, I think that those will be very good ones for us. I highly doubt that I could get my husband to dress up as Prince Naveen. But, because as I told you, the Prince Charming t-shirt. But that's okay. And I have no idea what my son is going to want to be. What were we last year? Last year we were Superman. That's what he wanted to be, was Superman. So we did do that one. And then before that, I think he was a character. No, it was Superman. What was he in between? The year we were unicorns, he was a character from Fortnite, which I don't even know what that is. And that's what I mean when I say, like, things had taken a turn and we weren't matching anymore. Because he was doing stuff I didn't even know what it was. So yeah, hopefully we have a good weather. We started super cool in the summer this year, and we are also ending super cool. Like right now, obviously we're just into September. It's 62 degrees outside, which is just mean. So here I'm doing the same technique with the fussy cutting, moving the paper with my non-dominant hand, and I just cut off the bottom of the pumpkin. This is going to allow him to sit on the top of the pumpkin, and kind of be a little bit more interactive in the scene. And so I think that, again, that would, if this one's not your cup of tea, like the little witch one that's flying by on the broom, I think would be super cute as well. I am going to add a little bit of a shadow underneath him, so it does look like he is sitting on the pumpkin. And then if you guys have been here before, I don't love the white outline on the die cuts, so I typically do blend them into the background. And since almost all of my stuff starts out as white cardstock, I am able to do that pretty easy because I have the markers that I've already used to color the things. So I can go in and color those outlines so that they match and kind of blend in to the background. Now, obviously they are, sitting on top, so there is a little bit of a difference in the level, like as far as where their height. But for the most part, I can just blend them in. For this little mound of candy, I'm just going to glue one down, blend the edge, glue the next one down, blend the edge, so on and so forth, until we have all of the candies that are kind of spilling out of the mouth of this little jack-o'-lantern right by our super cute little trick-or-treater. And then I put the Happy Halloween up top, and then that one is done until we do the detail work. So for this one, this one's, pretty super simple. We're going to, put the base on. I did blend in the middle where like the cupcake would be. I did, do that with a little bit of brown, but not like a ton of detail, just like 2 colors and a couple of little dots, because you're not really going to be able to see it, but I don't want that area to just be blank either. So I also blended in the bottom edge of that, cupcake frosting. Then for our cutie little Stamptember set, we're going to put the melted ice cream on top. This would also look really cute with like sprinkles and stuff. I ended up doing like makeshift sprinkles with stickles, but TRinity has really great embellishments that they have that are actual like clay sprinkles, and you could use those and they would look great. So I did add a little bit of darkness down to the bottom so that it looked grounded, I guess. And then I'm going to add some shadows underneath my little melted ice cream, so it doesn't look like it's just floating there. It looks like it's actually part of the frosting. And then, of course, the same thing. I didn't have to really do any blending with this one outside of the shadows because the cupcake is white. But I did for the one on the bottom, and did the same thing that I did before. So for the details, I added some shimmer to basically everything because I love the glitters. And then I added some white gel pen details to, again, pretty much everything. Like my little hats on my gnomes, my candies, the ice cream, like the melted ice cream. I added some to the highlight areas in the cupcake wrapper. More or less of these, whatever it is that you like. And then here is those stickles. I did make some of my candies glittery. I added some glitter outlines to the inside, like the glowing inside of the pumpkin, and my sprinkles. So here is the look at those 2 cards. Again, that set is a first come, first serve, but the technique still rings true, for how to create those shape cards. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.